So good afternoon. I will just switch to English because our next speaker, or one of our speakers, is English speaking. So yeah, upcoming workshop is presented by obviously Jägermeister. I think you just realized it when you saw Nils. And yeah, they will talk about their Tiki Global Projekt, where they also wrote a book about. And yeah, I think this is all I have to say. Nils will explain everything else. So welcome them and give them applause, please. Thank you.
Yeah. So thanks very much for having us. And when you just came in, don't worry. Just you find some space over there on top. Don't be embarrassed. You're late. Yes. No, anyway, so obviously what we're doing, I'm accompanied today by my friend Maxence. He's from France, usually just called Max. He's true cosmopolitan, born and bred in Paris, Nantes, moved to the Alps, very rural, and now he's moving to London, so his English is actually much better than mine, so he's astounding. And later on, if I perform very well, he promised me that he will give the best catchphrase to describe the French culture.
All right.
Yes. Which is, I can already, it is only half as good when I tell you, Lippenstift und Champagner. And if you hear him say this, you all go buying stuff for your ladies. I promise you. It's so amazing. But anyway, so what we're doing, it's pretty simple. So in 2014, we started a project called German Tiki. During that time, it was pretty, amazing. We had, at the Hubertus Circle, guys who were interested in Tiki. So the big question was yeah, we want to talk about Tiki. And I told them, cool, what we do with the rest of the day, so what's so big about it? So if we want to talk about it, it's more about just taking what Tiki is and explaining it. It got to be what makes Tiki so enduring, what makes Tiki so amazing. Obviously, it is mistreated very badly, commercialized crazy, but it is still enduring. Still, people go and know at least one or two Tiki drinks, right? So the thing was, for me, asking what makes Tiki, Tiki. So we figured that one out, pretty simple. Classic mid-century Tiki. There's still some seats here in the middle, just come on over. At least 1, 2, 3 seats. Yeah. And if you're nice, I'm pretty sure he's moving to the side. The lady just looked like she's biting you, so I would step somewhere else. Yes. Well done. Fight for your place here, as a latecomers, right? So what's your name?
Eric.
Hi.
Hi.
How you doing? How does it feel to be so prominently being exposed as a latecomer?
Nervous as fuck.
All right, I get it. All right, good. So that is probably as you shouldn't do, files that under, don't do this at home. If you want to be a real crowd pleaser, don't expose anyone, right? But anyway, we're looking for hopefully a very interactive session here. I'm gonna give you some drinks in between, and sometimes I'm gonna ask for people coming forward, and gonna ask for some reaction to drinks. So the thing, as I said, we started out, what is Tiki? Pretty simple. Tiki is basically Polynesian culture, in today's terms, cultural appropriation, stolen. And the next thing is Caribbean rum. And the last but not least important thing is Asian cuisine, right? Asian food. So it's we're jumping from one place to another. So obviously history helped a lot. It was situated and started out in the west coast of America. Everyone knows there's Hollywood. And when you go further to the west, totally in a Polynesian area, there's the 50th state of the US, Hawaii, right? So then we're coming to a time where obviously after the Second World War, people were getting into air trouble. So that was like, all contributing to an interest into something that people didn't understand. So, but more importantly, what it just did was describing. What we tried to was understanding what makes it so enduring, and that's even better. It is escapism and perceived exotic. That's what makes Tiki so kind of like, oh yeah, that's cool. You don't have to understand it. It just looks amazing. It is intriguing, right? And then all these, like, you're falling asleep just reading a recipe. Like, 6 different rum, no one understands, right? And then, like, some other obscure ingredients, like Herstura, no one heard of it, right? So all these things, kind of like, that makes it so appealing. So what we figured out, what kind of like was the nucleus of all these projects. First German Tiki, and later on like Global Tiki, where we just like went to all the other places, was basically what makes something exotic. You never heard of it, that's it. Right? You never been there, so it gotta be exotic, right? So your neighborhood usually becomes kind of like boring, mundane, right? You're used to it. So we, in Germany, we actually forget about, like, the beauty of all our crafts. The kind of like, the depths of knowledge in all bakeries. Like it's the pride a butcher takes. What makes a Nürnberger a Nürnberger. People all over the world at a kind of hotel buffet in the mornings, they do eat Nürnbergers, but no one knows what makes a Nürnberger a Nürnberger. Is it just the size? Boom, now we're talking. Knowledge, look at it. What particular herb is so important?
I have no idea.
Ah, there you go. That's the reason why we're here. No, but I mean, that's basically the start. It's anise and majoran. No, that's kind of like, no, that's not what makes a Nürnberger, particular Nürnberger. It's first is anise and cinnamon. So along the trading route, majoran is kind of like, homegrown. Nothing to do with the trading routes, right? The importance is like this kind of exotic ingredients, yes, but that makes it particular, kind of like, endearing to the public. So the thing was, we kind of like, figured out the new exotic is a tradition. It's what's forgotten, what makes German like, German, apart from Mercedes-Benz, BMW, whatever, right? So the thing, it's not about something nationalist. It's about strengthening the kind of like a particular region, right? Looking into what makes the Vorharz Mountains, where Jägermeister comes from, like this kind of mystic Walpurgisnacht, with all the witches dancing on the 30th of April, right? Something like this. And then we're looking at overall the picture of the Brother Grimm, right? I mean, Hollywood should, like, still send money over. We wrote the stories. So that's kind of like, obviously storytelling and finding beauty in what's near and dear and maybe forgotten. And there's nothing new but the forgotten. And what we have to admit is we rather travel to Asia, Dubai, instead of going somewhere around the corner and finding beauty, right? And then kind of like, the most, and I would say important aspect was, there was always this kind of tongue-in-cheek, like, don't take yourself too serious. As I said, it's not about cultural appropriation or nationalism. It's about this, we want to explain what makes our region so beautiful, right? And automatically, we learn something about alternative sweetness. We learn something about alternative kind of like, sources for acidity and sourness. Thus, automatically, we become more sustainable, right? We don't have to use lime. We can use something like verjus or like, like a proper elderflower, like, kind of elder juice, not the elderflower kind of syrup, but the elder juice. Like, it used to be the source of vitamin C. dog rose, source of vitamin C and acidity. Right? These kind of traditional things, and automatically we're talking about regionality, seasonality, and sustainability. Buzzwords. Fucking blowing your mind, right? It's good. So talking about, and that is like, for example, as I said, talking about regionality and the beauty of history and storytelling, we're talking about one particular source or alternative source of sweetness, which is here, the Segelschiffmumme. Anyone heard of it? You know what it is? No. All right, good. So we basically, I'm gonna have some people here helping me out, which is Nina and Tony. Big round of applause, Nina and Tony. Gonna show you, I just you're doing it like this, like with a pipette, and then you give it a try, and then you just drop it on the tray, right? And that's how it works. So the thing, the beauty, obviously, is this is like the source for it is the reduced malt beer. So there's no alcohol in it. And why it's called sailing ship Mumme? It's kind of funny. During the times, since 1390. That's fucking ages ago, right? During the time of the Hanse. What makes the Hansestadt Hamburg, so beautiful. This kind of trading, like the precursor of the EU, right? So that was the Hanse. So this particular kind of trading network worked around the Baltic Sea and part of the North Sea, right? And to this day, anyone speaks Finnish here. But everyone agrees that Finnish is like the weirdest language ever, right? Or one of the weirdest, right? It sounds like, it doesn't make any sense, right? So the beauty is, there's one particular dessert in Finland, and that name is Mumme. Amazing, isn't it? Due to the trading routes from the Hanses actually traveled that far, right? And it stayed there. So that is kind of obviously a beautiful aspect of this whole thing. It gives us something where we go, we can actually support, and find alternative sources for sweetness. You can use it for baking, all the stuff, right? And you can use it for drinks as well. And we use it for one particular drink, which you're gonna get in a second. So Olaf can start preparing. When a guy comes out with some drinks, his name is Olaf, and his colleague is Abba, right? So please start preparing, just drop some ice in. So the first drink we're making is a Schwarzwald Zombie. Black Forest Zombie, sounds great, right? So, and the beauty is, this drink tastes like a Black Forest layer cake. That's fucking amazing. So, but, spoiler alert, if you don't know what it tastes like the Black Forest layer cake, you've never eaten it, you have no idea. I featured this drink proudly, going crazy, in San Diego, boom. I'm in San Diego talking to a crowd, talking about the Black Forest layer cake, this drink, serving it, and everyone looked blankly at me, apart one. He was, thankfully, a couple of weeks before he was in Germany, I showed him German culture. So this guy, just with lights, sparkling eyes, he talks about driving with a bullet train through timber-framed houses in the countryside of Germany and eating in a Konditorei, a perfect Black Forest layer cake. Right, so I hope you're gonna enjoy the Black Forest, the Schwarzwald Zombie, and Max gonna prepare it, and then we kind of show you one other kind of obvious downside of mixing with Jäger, and then a particular kind of upside of making a drink with Jägermeister, and having it served in not necessarily a clear glass, but in a tiki mug or whatever a tiki mug can constitute, right? You don't drink. It's okay. We're not force feeding anyone. It's just a particular, like, kind of thing when you're going to a bar show and you're not drinking. It's kind of like. So, but anyway, so when we look at this kind of like, beautifully shaped, like, drink, you can see, like, all the air coming out. But we can agree, and that's like, saying something not necessarily particularly appealing, right? So drinks with Jägermeister and juices tend to look a bit like muddy water, right? And that actually is a good example. Like, we do have some sherry juice in, so it's kind of like, yes, already good looking, right? So, but how about dumping this whole drink just in a tiki mug? That basically is the beauty of tiki. Everything is hidden. You don't see this not very particularly appealing drink. It's hidden, right? So now talking about the tiki mug in itself. Obviously, it is always like, the tiki is a god and all these things, yeah. And usually you had to kind of like, really source them, look for them. Like, some people had them, but it was always kind of like a pain in the ass to get them. So now this particular one here, I actually could buy at the local CNC market, right? Because tiki is actually gaining traction over the last couple of years. It's becoming again once more popular, right? So that's the good news. So any kind of like, when we started out, we looked for like, what could be a good tiki cup or tiki mug, or like, what could be a good idea to place drinks in. So we always tried like, playing around with, for example, like Bierstein, all these kind of like, traditional German, like, ingredients. So the, for me, amazing aspect of this whole story was once you took this kind of like, initial change of perspective, the people were finding, like, all the contributors were looking for and finding particular beautiful hidden gems in their surroundings. They were going more and more kind of crazy about it, right? So the second drink Max is going to prepare, it's very simple. That one is called Scorpion Helene. Oh, I did it. I do PowerPoint karaoke. I can like, work with this thing. That's so beautiful. So the beauty of the Scorpion Helene is like, the scorpion is in itself like, in the tiki canon, probably like, the most difficult to execute brilliantly or well tiki drinks. Like, it's always easier to make a Manhattan, make a Mai Tai or make a zombie. Like, there's always kind of like, easy. But coming up with a balance, still intriguing and catching Scorpion, it's difficult. There's always like just orange, kind of like, not really like the sweetness, the body is lacking. So it's always kind of like, it's a pain in the ass. It's really a terrible drink. It's beautiful, great, but it's difficult to execute. So the Scorpion Helene is actually showing an even more important aspect of this whole story. And that is, how does Jägermeister work in this whole concept, and why is actually Jägermeister working in this whole concept? So one aspect I already talked about, like there's one ingredient in mid-century tiki which is intriguing and kind of like, difficult to understand, but makes total sense. That is called Herstura. So that's usually a pre-batched, like, ingredient, Herbsend plus Angostura. It's just called Herstura. Right? So the beauty of this ingredient is obviously Herbsend is like, an absinthe without like, all the stuff making you crazy. And then obviously Angostura contributes like, stuff like cloves, cinnamon, blah, blah, blah. Right? So when you look at Jägermeister, particularly when it's ice cold, what do you get? A very forward anisey note. Plus some cinnamon, cloves, blah, blah, blah. So you got it. So in itself, it is Herbsend, right? Historia, Herbsen plus Angostura, you just equals Jägermeister. You just need to use it and it works perfectly. So now I do need a volunteer to give this drink a try. And you got to wait here and kind of like, just take a sip. Who wants to? I need more enthusiasm. The guy next to you. No, yeah, come on over. That was just like raising your hands the moment you heard it. So, volunteer. So you can take a sip, a proper sip.
Okay.
It's your glass. I'm just going to go like this. So in this drink, it's like Verjus, some German brandy. You can see the recipe. But the thing is, the way it tastes, it's kind of meh, right? Kind of like, a lack of body. And what we're doing, it's not that Max kind of like, messed it up. But what we on purpose missed out on is this proper splash of Jäger.
Sure.
Right? So now we're going to give it a nice stir. And you're going to give it another proper sip. And now you focus on body and acidity. Boom. You seen that? I have no idea. I don't know his name. I don't pay him any money. But you've seen it. It's an instant reaction, right? So picture this. I'm going to break your knees. So you just kind of seen it. It's like, the Jägermeister in the drinks works like so unifying. It works like a combination of make everything rounder, stronger, kind of like elevating, right?
That's flavors. It's adds a little bit more flavor, and the anise is coming.
Boom. Flavors, anise is coming through, all this stuff. So the thing is, it makes sense from a kind of technical, executional point of view. How to perfect your drinks profile, right? Thanks very much. Big round of applause. You can take it home. Obviously, what you already figured out, it was taking some, zips of the very strong and alcoholic Schwarzwald-Zombie. All tiki drinks do have a prominence of alcohol, right? We can agree with that, right? So, and that is on purpose, because what all tiki is always about is escapism. Once you finish a whole glass of this stuff, you don't worry about making your homework, right? I actually planned on doing whatever garden, blah, blah, blah. Forget it. It's gone, right? The only thing you actually ponder about, it's what could I do next? What about the next drink? Maybe go on vacation. Actually, I'm just on vacation. I'm just going to stay in here, right? That's what good tiki drinks do. And the other thing is, obviously, there's always this kind of multi-layered flavor invasion and a beautiful storytelling, right? So next string, we're going to kind of prepare. It's a beautiful example for this. And it obviously is... I'm so good at it. I can actually do your PowerPoint presentation. I do know how to press this bottom, right? So that is always the extent when I tell people I do PowerPoint, everyone goes crazy. Say, do you believe me preparing this shit? I don't. But I know kind of bottom I have to press, right? So the next string coming up is kind of got a very... on the one hand, very simple name, and on the other hand, it really is a very intriguing name. It's called B3, for Bundesstraße 3. Right? That's the most kind of that is a downer, right? But as you can see, it runs from the very north down to the very south of our beautiful republic. And then, once again, what you can see, it's only crossing through the former western part of Germany. So that is history most vividly depicted, right? So that is the beauty. You can always make a connection to where we come from, where we can go, where we actually have a part in, right? History. And it's written here. And the beauty is, of all the ingredients, that is like a drink we did for the Global Tiki book, of all the ingredients, it is basically crossing through and doing a road trip. And what, I mean, I would say, like, spells escapism more than going for a road trip. There's nothing better. Like, just go on and stop wherever you want, go a little bit further, hang out, spend the night, be spontaneous. That's a road trip, right? So that's what it can do and can be. And for me, it's like a beautiful example for this kind of like, thing. And when Max finished off, I do need 2 volunteers. And this is a slightly like, lighter drink. So who wants to volunteer? You again. All right, good. So come on over. I got one. I need another one. Come on over. Perfect. Very nice. So, the beauty of this drink, like, obviously it's topped with Bluna, right? And when you're a little bit older than me, like, you can always still remember, like, when you're driving through the countryside, you always see these old kind of, like, pictures of the Bluna, like, doing commercials, like, these kind of superimposed logos somewhere, right? And that, hence we had, like, topping it off with some Bluna. The beauty, obviously, in the recipe, we do use some corn, which is, like, for me, a totally underrated spirit in Germany. I mean, that's just one example, right? Obviously, like, you can get it as a kind of, I would say, marketing-wise, out of laziness, I don't know why, like, German are never really good at marketing. They're never really good at promoting good stuff, right? So corn, for me, it's a perfect example of a very nice, well-made spirit. So go ahead, tell everyone, do you like it?
It's a weird twist with the dill. It's crazy. It's good.
There we go. It's tasty, weird, intriguing. That's all about.
Yeah.
Yes, keeping you on your toes, right? So thanks. Big round of applause. Done well. Keep your drink. Perfect. So obviously, I'm almost like, kind of done with what I'm supposed to do, right?
Fair play.
And then I'm handing over to Max before I kind of like, jump in for a nice, beautiful end of the session. We're gonna like, make everyone crazy again. So thanks, big round of applause. Please welcome Max.
Thanks. I was very lucky. A few years ago, the German Tiki book was released, and then we were invited to Wolfenbüttel to visit the where Jägermeister is made, and they introduced us to the concept of German Tiki, and he planted a seed right there about like what would that be applied to my country, and then 2 years ago you started to take this project global, writing the Global Tiki book. It's a very interesting thing that has been done by Jägermeister on this one. In every country where we've been, we've worked around what makes us special as a country. And I believe as bartender is kind of an odd question to ask. It's kind of the question that we don't answer every day. And we absolutely love doing this work about France.
I'm probably got to kind of jump in here. When you can get the book like from Jägermeister, you can order it, and the thing is, it might be kind of like almost like disconcerting. Not all of the recipes are easy to replicate, since it's called Global Tiki. Some of the ingredients you definitely need to be somewhere like in Africa. You don't make your own beer at home, right? So all these kind of things, they're not necessarily around the corner and easy to replicate. But what they're supposed to do is make you yearn to go there or help for a better understanding, right? So that's the idea.
Cheers. Yeah, so we've so we taken the Hubertus Circle member for France, and then we spoke together about what makes us special, where we can find source of sweeteners, where we can find source of acidity, what's our booze patrimony. We got all this cognac, Armagnac, the agricole rum. We've been all over the place, so we have loads of things that makes us kind of unique. But I think the one I like the most about what we've done is the drink that I'm going to present to you, and then we're gonna give you guys a little taster. Is the one called pain aux chocolatines. French people do one thing very well. They argue constantly about everything. That's what we do best. You guys all know what a pain au chocolat is? Well, we French people are not agree whether we should call it a pain au chocolat or a chocolatine. If you come from the south of France, it's a chocolatine, and if you come from the north of France, where I do come from, then if you're a normal human being, you'll call it a pain au chocolat. And I swear, every French person has been stuck into this infinite debate on whether it should be called a pain au chocolat or a chocolatine. And that's why my country gets nothing done. Like, well, actually, we've put all the drinks is coming for you guys. This kind of attitude, we call it guerre de clocher. It's fighting with the village. We always find reason to fight. Yeah. I believe that's pretty much it. I just can't wait to hear what you guys think. All right, so drinks are coming. Oh, no, it's kind of an homemade product. What I've done is simply take a simple syrup, sous vide with 2 pains au chocolat, left that sink for a day, and then filtered it this morning in my hotel room. Yeah. The hotel room is not mandatory, but yeah. So, yeah, this one was very interesting because it showcased the part I like the most about France, which is all those deep village that fights with each other. Then, obviously, if you think France, you think exotism, and we're thinking lipstick, champagne. So we've made this beautiful twist on Ramos Gin Fizz with a liqueur that I really like called Acheteoria Cuir Lointain. It's a person that used to do perfume and that now does liqueur, and it's basically unfindable. And I think we do that very well as well. Finally, sip to democracy, because again, we like to fight a lot. And we're going to invite people to do a little shot with us. Yeah. Should we use the old-fashioned as a shot? You guys happy with that drink? Someone want to argue a little bit? You good? I think we can actually layer it. Pretty sure it's not gonna be.
So we do need some volunteers once more. And this is a shot, so it's not like, you take it home. It's like, you got to jump in here. Come on over. Yeah, it's very good. So we got 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we need a 5th. Yeah, come on over. All right, good. So this is obviously, as Max said, a zip to democracy.
Yeah, that's if you're French, it's very usual to be sat at a bistro. It's Saturday, normal afternoon, and then suddenly you see police, rioters, fire everywhere. We fight pretty hard, and then you just go inside the bistro, tear gas, mosh the place absolutely. 10 minutes after, they're gone, and you just take the table out and continue to have your coffee. And that scene, I swear, happened to me many, many, many times. That's kind of being French. Yeah. Yeah, there is absolutely no chance I'll make this thing burn. Are we getting it? We're definitely not getting it. But we can get the idea, right?
Yeah, you get the idea.
There you go. Cheers, guys. To you. And to the joy of being non-governable. Cheers. Santé. Pretty strong one, that one, isn't it?
It's a shot. I can explain it again. It's a shot.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's like very tiki.
Very tiki. Cheers, guys.
I mean, the idea of a shot, obviously, is like force feeding on steroids. It's really like, you got to be quick, right? That's the idea. All right, good. So, thanks, Max. Big round of applause, please. So, and hopefully, what you can understand, it's what Max described is kind of figuring something out or finding something. So we had this kind of working together, trying to inspire some people, or trying to, make them realize this is particularly unique, this is beautiful, this is what makes your country, your kind of community so beautiful, so precious, right? So we had that with 18 different cultures, 18 different countries, since the HC is on 4 continents. Europe, the US, that is North America. Then we do have South Africa, this is Africa. And then we do have Australia, which is obviously Australia. So 4 continents and 18 countries. And some of these guys were we know all about it. And then kind of trying to, we just go for a twist. And then we had to push them further because the interesting aspect of this whole endeavor was, once you're a bartender, you do have a kind of a skill set and a knowledge about these recipes. So you're always kind of looking for the next kind of common denominator. It's what is the easiest thing? So you're kind of just twisting, right? And the whole idea of Global Tikis is kind of we do find something inspiring or uniquely, particular about one region. It was far easier to actually communicate to other people who were no bartenders. Like Nina, for example, she understood it right away. She's all yeah, that's fucking amazing, right? But the bartender always goes yeah, but that's not a Mai Tai. Yeah, I get it. That's not the point, right? So that was always kind of the most interesting aspect of it. And the other thing was some people were kind of getting the recipes and they went yeah, but I can't do it at home. That's not the point. The whole thing is to make you curious. And that for me, it's the most amazing aspect. We are also overloaded. Everyone working with some kind of device where it's always kind of everything is always kind of just there. But it's only giving you the surface. Information does not equal knowledge. And knowledge does not equal understanding. That's for me, the most paramount learning of this century. Please just don't take it for granted. Yeah, it was on the internet. Fuck it. There's still an address of my bar, like, you know, I closed 11 years at that particular place. Yeah, it's still in the internet. So the internet has not all the information, right? That's always important to understand. And the next thing, we're coming to our last drink. Please, Oliver and Albert, please prepare the last drink, which is for me like a particularly beautiful drink because its name is Jaguar. Like the animal, Jaguar, right? No, or written like Jägermeister, Jack, and Poire, like pear, right? So the thing with the Jaguar, that particular drink, during like, you know, it probably was early 2015, something like that, 16. During that time, there was one tiki bar close to the Amoy Amago in New York. And that was called like, you know, Mother of Pearls. During the pandemic, it had to close down. It was one of the first, like, you know, bars with a vegan restaurant. So it was really like, you know, absolute cutting edge kind of like, you know, concept. And the lady, Jane Danger, she's like, you know, she's an amazing bartender. And what she did, she just like, you know, kind of figured out how to bring Jägermeister and Williams kind of liqueur together. So that is in itself sounds like it's such a simple, like, you know, two ingredient, like, you know, drink. But I can assure you, it is like one of the most amazing multi-layered sensations. It's like a whole dessert. And for me, what it showed, and that is like, you know, probably the biggest message, it's like there's always this kind of current of interest and kind of like, you know, intrigue and inspiration running through the universe. And it needs you and your kind of like, you know, ability to be attuned to these vibes. And then we all gonna figure something out beautiful, right? We all gonna make the world a better place. So I would say, everyone got one? Are we gonna be quick? Who's missing out? Please raise your hands. Oh, yeah, yeah. We need some more enthusiasm. Yeah, perfect. Raise your hands, please. Yes, over there, a whole pocket. They look thirsty. They're probably just going into the second zip. Perfect. All right, kids. We need two here, please.
Still need your hands, please. Two here, yes.
Perfect.
Post.
Thank you. All right, I do believe, like, now everyone's being served. Like, you know, if not, like, you know, places like our chance, all I've got, like, some more drinks. Who needs one? Everyone got one? All right, good. So, please, I want to thank you for your attention. I want to thank you, obviously, like, you know, Nina, for pushing this second book to its finishing process as well. So, and then, obviously, when you're interested, please don't hesitate to ask. Like, you know, always stay curious. It was my pleasure to be here. And most importantly, please say it once for everyone, lipstick and champagne.
The lipstick and champagne.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
So, are you ready for some questions, maybe? Yeah? So, thank you very much. So, who hasn't have a question? You didn't? Okay, then who has a question? There you go.
I just wanted to ask, how was this artisanal spirit called, the one from the perfumer?
Oh, it's Cuir Lointain by H. No? Fair play. Fair play.
Maybe you can
just
find
as it's
Max on
pronounced, really.
Instagram.
All caps. It'd be good. Yeah, come around after. I'll give it to you for sure. Or buy the book. It's inside. Yeah.
Anybody else? Oh yeah, in the back.
I was just wondering, is there something when you get a drink in a bar, a random bar, and what makes you go like, that's a tiki drink to me? What defines a tiki drink for you? Because to me it's like you can say, oh, it needs that special ingredient, or it needs to have at least 7 ingredients, or it needs to be in a tiki mug. So what makes you go, that's tiki to me? Because I think it's always kind of an individual definition.
I guess that's the interesting thing about that project, is like asking what is tiki and what is exotic, and I believe that it could fall under the tiki if it makes you want to escape, if it makes you want to travel, or if it just takes you to some other place, just disconnect you for a second with whatever situation you're living. So it could actually just be a whiskey on rocks, if that's what gets you going, you know?
I guess like one important aspect is always this kind of alcoholic kick always breaks down these defense of I want to stay in normal kind of I'm a responsible person, right? And with the proper tiki drinks, the first sip makes you want to drink more, and as the last sip probably renders the evening plan totally kind of hopeless. You're all gonna change the outlook on what to do next, right? I guess it's that will be one kind of point. The other thing, how many ingredients does it need? That's not the point. It's some, I would say in the best circumstance, kind of show some aspect or flavor of in where you feel this is really interesting, or it showcase a food where you go this is a particular food of a particular region. All these things can be kind of it's inviting you to daydream, right? That's probably the saying. And as I said, we probably should not underestimate this kind of the strength of alcohol is rather important. It makes you kind of easier to endure. So we all good? So you've been wonderful. Thank you very much. Big round of applause for you. And you, and you, and you.